Evidence for God. Is there any? With the work scientists have been doing in recent decades, there is increasing physical evidence to support the idea that God does exist, and we'll be looking at some of the evidence in this presentation. Where we'll start, though, is with the ancient Hebrew manuscripts. To date, there are around 5,000 manuscripts which have been found. The oldest Hebrew manuscript is dated 750 BC, which is almost 3,000 years ago. These manuscripts are the records from which the Bible has been compiled. When we read the Bible, we learn about events which occurred on the earth in past times. Scientists have been uncovering evidence which supports what is recorded in the biblical text. The first piece of evidence to look at is called transcontinental sedimentation. Geologists discovered large deposits of sand which moved enormous distances from their original location. This was determined by analysing the sand grains in each location. The sand grains were an identical match. After further investigation, scientists ruled out movement by wind or through river channels, since there was nothing to support these possibilities. 3 places where these deposits are found are Lake Baikal in Siberia, Utah, and the Grand Canyon in the United States. The deposits moved an astounding 1,200 miles. Scientists concluded the only way these deposits could have moved such long distances is through being lifted and transported by water of significant depth. In other discoveries, scientists found fossils of marine creatures in a rock quarry in Bermuda. The fossils indicated ancient sea levels were 70 feet higher than they are today. And while investigating rocks in Italy, scientists discovered an extinct fungus which feasted on dead wood during a time when the world's forests had been catastrophically eradicated. Putting these findings together, scientists concluded the entire Earth at one point was submerged underwater. When we go to the ancient texts of the Bible, we read of a flood which was brought upon the whole earth and destroyed all life. The only survivors were Noah, his family, and animals of each kind. The next piece of evidence is an archaeological site located near the Dead Sea. Archaeologists found sulfur balls scattered throughout the site and a graveyard of the remains of around 1 million human skeletons. Indentations are seen on many of the rocks in the area, and the indentations correspond to the shape and size of the sulfur balls. When analysing these balls, they found they consisted of a very high percentage of sulfur. These balls are found nowhere else on the planet. When a flame was brought to one of these balls, it ignited immediately. It takes only 2 to 3 breaths of sulfur fumes for a human being to die instantly. When we go to the Bible, we learn God sent 2 angels to destroy the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah because the populations were living in wickedness and refused to change. The angels rained down fiery balls of sulfur on the cities, and they were destroyed quickly. The next item of evidence is a tablet dug up in the Middle East. The tablet has a Hebrew inscription carved into it. In the inscription are the words, House of David. When we turn to the Bible, we read of King David, who was a shepherd boy handpicked by God to lead the Israelites. The final item is a codex or manuscript of the writings of a Roman historian named Tacitus. Tacitus lived in the 1st century AD. The manuscript is housed in Florence, Italy. In his writings, Tacitus spoke about Jesus Christ and referred to him as Christos. Tacitus recorded that Jesus was the origin of the Christian movement and that Jesus was executed by the Roman governor of Judea. He records that the death of Jesus was during the governorship of Pontius Pilate during the reign of Tiberius. When we turn to the Bible, we read of the crucifixion of the Lord Jesus Christ, that he stood trial before Pontius Pilate during the reign of Tiberius. So you may be asking, how does all this relate to evidence for God? Well, it's this. More and more discoveries are surfacing as evidence supporting what is recorded in the Bible. We can go even further by considering the authors of these ancient manuscripts, the Hebrew people. Here we have an ancient race of people who recorded events and maintained those records which have arrived to us today. The Hebrews or Israelites wrote about their interactions with God. They recorded how God revealed himself to them. In God's revelation, he made it known that he is the one and only true God, that it is he who created the universe, this world, and mankind. The Israelites also recorded the supernatural events God performed before them. What we also need to consider is that it wasn't a handful of individuals who were eyewitnesses to God's revelation, but according to historical data, the population at the time is estimated to have been 3 million people. The Israelites also didn't experience God on one or two occasions, but numerous occasions. Coming back to current day science, we've been taught that the world is millions or billions of years old. This theory is questionable because of the dating method devised in the 1940s and known as carbon-14. Carbon-14 measures the decay of carbon in anything that was once living. The half-life of carbon is 5,730 years. All fossils found today still contain carbon. Diamonds which are formed from carbon also still contain traces of carbon. Carbon-14 provides evidence that our world is not millions of years old. Two theories which are currently held are the Big Bang and the theory of evolution. However, there's no physical or real evidence to support these theories. In some circles, there is even a view that aliens populated the Earth. This too has no tangible evidence to support it as valid. When we turn back to the manuscripts of the Bible, we read that God has an enemy whose name is Satan, the devil. We learn Satan works overtime to blind mankind to the truth of God. Satan has his agents in all fields, particularly in the scientific community. It's worth noting that most scientists are atheists and that we are receiving theories and information from atheists. If we look around us, up at the sky, stars, and planets, how can we not accept that there is a magnanimous, wonderful spirit keeping everything alive and moving it with such precision, which scientists observe, calculate, and record? It is important to become clear on the question of God. For one reason, we learn in the Bible text that God will be bringing this world to an end. This end has everything to do with Satan, who causes life to be filled with suffering, difficulty, and ongoing problems. God's plan is to bring in a new world which is totally new and filled with ongoing peace, truth, and joy. If you take the time to do your own research, what you'll find is that there is more evidence in support of God rather than evidence to the contrary. I hope this presentation has given you some ideas to think about.